SheSec Pakistan Forum. SheSec Pakistan is the first Pakistan's independent information security community dedicated women. SheSec Pakistan is run by a few passionate individuals who brainstorm together to uplift women in cybersecurity. SheSec aims to provide a channel for existing cybersecurity professionals to showcase their talent. Her Cafe is a SheTech Pakistan's broadcast series, which we are beginning today, solely designed to gather information and cybersecurity professionals globally to engage in healthy cyber conversations and training to impart knowledge and awareness. With the first session of Cyber Her Cafe. So this is the topic for today's discussion would be cyber risk and data privacy challenges in COVID era. So to begin with, I'm quickly going to introduce myself and the panel to the audience. This is Khwaja Muhammad Ali. I'm currently associated with the banking industry. My focused areas are cybersecurity. We've got a very talented, skilled, and a really seasoned InfoSec professional with us, Mehzad. And Mehzad, it's really good to see you again, I believe, after 15, 16 years. I recall going back in 2006, our first encounter was you were Middle East based and we were having the first CISSP bootcamp in Pakistan. And you were the first one to represent ISC2 and you came as a proctor and you conducted the exam. So I still recall that time. And we have a long association to go. So it's very good to see, besides that Mehzad is now a group chief for the InfoSec areas for the Angro group. So it's not only the MNC, it's not only the industry, it's not only energy sector, the whole lot of Angro we all know. We don't have to go in details. We don't have the time to explain the Angro business. So first of all, congratulations on that role. You're leading the InfoSec in that specific area in Pakistan. You're amongst the leading people again in that area who have actually made industry aware of the importance of InfoSec. So that's one side. So over to you, a quick intro. You have a big shop, but a quick intro.
Sure. Thanks, Ali, for recalling all these sweet memories. So for the audience, first of all, I'm really honored being called by SheSec Wonderful Forum. Highly appreciation for them for all this effort. And for the audience, as Ali said, I'm Mehzad Sahar, and I'm currently working as a group head information security at Angro Corporation. And I have overall 22 years of experience, all in cyber security. And earlier, I have served as a chief information security officer of Bank of Falah, Telenor, PTCL in Pakistan, and I have led security in Du, Etisalat, and Saudi Aramco in the Middle East. For me, practically, with this mesh of interconnected devices and social media applications today, the digital privacy is an obsolete word for me, which should be exempted from the English dictionary, in view of evolving world of cybersecurity threats and ongoing compromise. And why this is, and that's why what we will discuss in detail in this upcoming panel discussion. Thank you. Over to you.
Yeah, forward. And if Mehzad, if you could help us actually highlight some of the industries that were most targeted in the last year.
Okay, thanks, Ali. So for this question, when it comes to managing digital risk and facing potential cyber attack, each industry faces its own unique motivations and assets and geopolitical.
Mehzad, you can switch your video off. I think you're having some.
The topmost constitution for the past 5 years, the manufacturing and energy sector saw a hike in attacks, jumping 5 levels, I would say, from their respective 2019 ranking. And the financial sector was affected by a large portion of server attacks, data theft, and some ransomware cases. These attacks types are, coherent with attack motivation in targeting organizations that move, ranked as the eighth most attack in 2019 report, but now it jumped to second place in 2020, and which is driven by the interest malicious actors have in targeting infrastructure with connection to indicating that actors sought to disrupt operation in place where the pressure to pay ransom would be great. So in 2020, the manufacturing industry also became more critical than ever with the production of personal protection equipments and other critical supplies. The sector saw increased activity across the globe, which could have been a reason for attackers to target it in a more busiest time. And launching data theft and business email compromise attack on manufacturing across the globe. And similarly, energy jumped from 9th place in 2019 to 3rd place in 2020, further underscoring attackers' focus on OT connected organization in 2020. So healthcare jumped from last place in 2019 to 7th place in 2020, probably driven by COVID-19 related health care attacks and a barrage of ransomware attack against hospital. So while it ranked 7th in 2020, the number of attack on healthcare more than double compared to 2019. And almost a third of all attacks on the healthcare sector were ransomware cases. The healthcare sector, I believe, is going through extremely challenging time, having to respond to a global pandemic while increasingly being targeted by sophisticated cyber crimes and nation-state threat actors out to disrupt and steal data from organizations in this industry. Over to you, Wali.
Yeah. So thank you. So I have and the unknown, the hackers and the non-state actors and all that. So Mehzad is liking it, probably, the unknown part.
Very much, yeah, very much convinced.
So I would refer back to On's earlier discussion on digitalization. Mehzad, I'm going to come back to you. And, if you carry on to Uzma's say, so you think there are any benchmarks specifically identifying critical data in any organization, or how do you take it?
Ali, what I believe, there is no specific benchmark to identify the critical data in an organization because it varies from industry to industry. Example, for a bank, customer credit card and their secret personal relevant questionnaires are critical data. For a telco company, CDR, customer data record, which reveals their location and other private information is critical data to be protected. And for a manufacturing company, their plant drawings, certain chemical propositions and formulas to build their own product is top secret and critical data. For food, for example, for food business, relevant recipes to make certain tea, KFC chicken, Pepsi, Coke, ingredients, and certain composition to produce such unique taste are, called critical data. And for a healthcare industry, they spend millions of dollars for research and development to produce certain medicine or cure in the form of, for example, COVID vaccine. So critical data are information that is vital to the operation of the business. And if the data gets compromised, the business becomes exposed to risk that could lead to financial losses, bankruptcy, legal issues, and even, closure. So over the last few years, we have seen businesses and high-level organizations lose critical data. Retailers, banks, and credit card companies have had their customer database, stolen, and government offices and agencies have had their email compromised. Threats have been made by cyber criminals to attack critical data of utilities company in order to disrupt services to citizens. Like we know, K Electric is one of the examples. Thus, it is very, very important for business to secure and protect critical data. That is the conclusion. And unfortunately, most businesses are not aware of what their critical data are. So most businesses don't know which data needs protection, and this is because they don't know which processes need the data. And business owners and top level executive should request actually the practical solutions senior management to conduct a data analysis and I would say and pinpoint the processes that are being supported for this purpose.
Cloud security is, I believe, it's a security within a security itself. So it's a whole different topic, and we need to have a separate session someday on this. But thank you, Uzma, for covering most of it and making us aware of some of the needs we need to focus on when going on the cyberspace. Although we're done with our time, but how can we just forget this COVID arena? So I think I'm liking the discussion, and we can have a quick go on that also. So, Mehzad, what is the COVID impact on cybersecurity and privacy? If we just, bring it to the COVID side.
Okay. So, Ali, the coronavirus pandemic has created new challenges for businesses as they adopt to an operating model in which working from home has become the new normal, and companies are accelerating their digital transformation, and cybersecurity is now a major concern. The reputational and operational, legal and compliance implications could be, considerable if cybersecurity risks are neglected. And in numbers, the 47% of individuals falls for a phishing scam while working at home, as per new study. And the cyber attackers see the pandemic as an opportunity to set up their criminal activities by exploiting the vulnerability of employees working from home and capitalizing on people strong interest in coronavirus related news. Example, malicious fake coronavirus related websites and vaccination. An example of the criminal exploiting the cybersecurity weaknesses in remote working has been the series of cyber attack on video conferencing services while compromising people privacy. And if you remember, between last year, between Feb 2022 and May 2020, more than 500,000 people were affected by breaches in which the personal data of video conferencing services users, for example, name, password, email addresses, they were all stolen and sold on the dark net. And what we have noted instance where unwanted and uninvited members gain access to virtual meetings and obtain confidential and sensitive information, which is then sold to another party or made available to the public to damage the company as well as personal, reputation. A home working environment does not have sophisticated enterprise prevention and detection measures. So additionally, home Wi-Fi networks are much easier to attack. And human error is another, I will say, issue of concern. And prior to the pandemic, human errors was already a major cause of cyber insecurity. And with home working now, however, the problem is even greater. And when they work from home, employees may be interrupted in the work they are doing by family members or social visitors. These type of restriction, what I believe, can make individuals more careless. And technology companies, governments, and international agencies have all, although they have announced measures to help contain the spread of COVID-19, and some of these measures impose severe restrictions on people's freedom, privacy perspective, including to their privacy and other human rights, and an unprecedentedly level of surveillance, and data exploitation and I will say misinformation are being tested across the world. And many of these measures are based on a extraordinary power only to be used temporarily in emergencies, frankly speaking. Others use exemption in data protection laws to share data. And some may be effective and based on advice from this episode, other will not be. And so, but all of them must be temporarily necessary and should maintain well. So it is very essential as a conclusion to keep track of them. And when the pandemic is over, such extraordinary measure must be put to an end and held to an account. Over to you.
Yeah. So thank you, Mehzad. Thank you for a much elaborated answer. And so we're all facing all this. What just Mehzad explained, I think it's self-explanatory also. I mean, like we have been experiencing this, we've been seeing this all over the news. But there's one more. Just tell us some ransomware variants this COVID situation has, maybe given birth to or otherwise.
Okay, thank you, Ali, for summarizing what Mehzad has already explained well. It should also be recalled that financial gain is not the only motive behind cyber attacks. Hacktivism and its aim of damaging the business reputation is an additional threat caused by the ransomwares. So COVID-19 pandemic has made organizations, including hospitals, governments, universities, and many organizations more conscious about losing access to their system and more motivated to pay the ransom. So the criminals take advantage of this situation by running more ransomware attacks or offering ransomware as a service on the dark web. So COVID-19 has significantly shifted the threat landscape from attacks on individuals and businesses to the more critical infrastructure, including government and major corporations. So malicious cyber attacks were behind the majority of healthcare IT security incidents in this pandemic era. So cyber criminals have consistently sought to take advantage of organizations that rapidly deployed remote systems and networks to support the shift into remote workforce. Hackers have also targeted the increase in security vulnerabilities to steal the data, disrupt the operations, generate the profits. So the creation of new ransomware and malware samples soared during the pandemic. There were 11 more new ransomware samples created in the first 6 months of 2020, which was like in the same period of in 2019. So as people sought information on what was happening to ease their sense of uncertainty during the pandemic, Google searches related to the coronavirus rose. One particular peak occurred on, I guess, 15th or 16th of March in the last year, according to Google Trends public data. They created an environment ripe for ransomware attacks. Often cyber criminals camouflage the ransomware under the new information about coronavirus, trying to lure the victims into clicking on malicious links. If I specifically talk about example, in Italy, one of the most affected countries by COVID-19 for infections, attackers created a web page mimicking the Italian Federation of Pharmacists websites. It was set up to trick the users into downloading the ransomware as a dashboard displaying data on COVID-19. Other ransomware targeted users of popular applications are including Android operating systems and Microsoft Office itself. So ransomware attacks during the pandemic hit aid organizations, medical billing companies, manufacturers, government institutions, traffic agencies, software providers, and many more. Notably, the most critical sector during the pandemic was healthcare, which was the most targeted for attacks. Cyber adversaries have targeted the hospitals in particular for years, as gaining access to the confidential patient information such as their medical history or surgery appointments. So as such, hospitals are highly prone to paying a ransom. The COVID-19 pandemic stretched the healthcare systems to their limits, eliminating any breathing room they may have had if targeted in the pre-pandemic times. That means they have become even bigger prey in the eyes of cyber criminals in the last year. As in March 2020, if we recall that there was a hospital in Europe which was a victim of a suspected ransomware attack, which resulted in it shutting down its entire IT network and canceling all the surgeries they have planned. So some operators of ransomware stated that they would no longer target the healthcare, but others are continuing to cash in on the crisis period even. So ransomware thrives during the COVID-19 pandemic with new samples have increased more than like 70%. Attacks on the infrastructure, including healthcare companies, research labs, have added to this turmoil. There are some traps for the ransomware that includes information about the vaccines, masks, and short supply of the commodities, also including the financial scams offering the payment to the government assistance during this economic shutdown. So we have also seen more towards more creative ways of extorting the ransoms. These these also include, if I recall the right terminology for it, this is a double extortion. Nevertheless, there have been many schools that have been hit with the ransomware, like the situation in one of the countries in the US, one of the state in US, sorry, where a school was closed due to a ransomware attack. So there are ways to reduce the likelihood and impact of a cyber attack, but it requires focused action and planning. Companies need to make their remote working practices resilient to the cyber attacks and enhance their development and application of the security measures. What is clear is that ransomware attacks are evolving globally, becoming more complex, merging with the other cyber attacks methods, including the human factor as well, and not going any time away soon, even during the pandemic era.
Okay, so thank you, Rabab, for giving a quick brief on this. And maybe a last question to Mehzad. When we talk about, the magnitudes and of high magnitude areas, so APT is obviously, it's named. So you think that, there are some APT groups that have triggered during this COVID scenario?
Yes, Ali, unfortunately, that is true. And several cyber criminal and state-sponsored advanced persistent threat APT groups, they have been using coronavirus-based phishing as their infection vector to gain a foothold on victim machines and launch malware attacks, just like the spread of coronavirus itself. And China was the first targeted by APT group, and as the virus spread worldwide, so did the attack. And APT groups that have been using coronavirus as a lure, and if you analyze their infection techniques and eventually payload, you can categorize the APT groups based on 4 different attack vectors used in COVID-19 campaign. And for example, template injection, malicious macros, RTF exploit, which is a flexible text format, and malicious link file. In case of like template injection, they refer to a technique in which the actor embeds a script, and upon opening the document, the remote template is dropped and executed. And in this case, the APT group name is Kimsuki and Gamardan APT used, this type of techniques. There are like APT 32, APT 36, and these are the actors who are known for using malicious macros through this type of attacks. There are another APT group which is known as Caliposo, and they are mostly using embedded documents like RTF Word document to attack people through phishing. And also some APT threat actors groups are using malicious links. And then because then link is a shortcut, basically file used by Microsoft Windows, and it is considered as a shell item. So in this case, a North Korean threat group is very much involved, in this type of attack. So in summary, what we expect that in the coming months, APT threat actors will continue to leverage this crisis to craft a phishing campaign using all such technique, which I tried to mention in a quick way, unfortunately. So this will continue and will actually evolve more and more on coming days. And because these guys, unfortunately, they don't have any mercy what's going on at the human level as a crisis.
So good to have you all. I'm really thrilled being here, and I think it's an august group. We have people from industry side, academia, industry, law enforcement experiences also there, And so it's a good forum. I think it was, and thank you, SheSec Pakistan, for honoring this whole group. And most of all, honoring us to lead the first session, the ever first session of cyber. And we would love to join back again. So see each of us again sometime in a different role or the same role, maybe. Thank you, all of us.
Thank you, Khaja.
Thank you, SheSec.